everybody, it's Safi here. Well, Safi and Marco dish out on the movies, and I am just doing a little addendum on what Marco did earlier today, and that is the new Goosebumps book that just came out called, I think it's called The Scariest Book. And
Ever.
Ooh, ever. And there's so many lies that I don't even know if that's really true. So I say that tongue-in-cheek, meaning I don't know. I'm doubtful after reading the book, that is. So it was weird because the reason why I didn't do the previous review with Marco was because he had me doing the next Slappy World book, was Escape from Shutter Mansion. And I thought it was really weird because this book, just at the beginning, mirrors the other book because they both have fraternal twins. The older twin is, or not the older, but there's a taller twin, which is a girl. And then the younger, not the younger, but the shorter part of the fraternal twin is a boy. And they both have the same body types, and they're both two sets of fraternal twins. So I thought, this is really weird. This is deja vu. But then the rest of the story is nothing like Escape from Shutter Mansion, although there are they have to make a lot of escapes from different entities, I'll just say.
Now, first
weird
off,
animals, which I have no idea. I thought because of something that Marco said, I thought this professor made these animals.
No, Safi, that's not what I meant.
Because he said something from, it was like, stay out of the basement, which that guy did make.
The whole book is like stay out of the basement.
That guy made up plant people.
Now, but first off, Safi, what did you think about the title of like the series called House of Shivers?
Well, I don't know what
does that
has
mean?
to do. It doesn't have anything to do with the book.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Unless the house will be in it every time.
I don't
it
think
doesn't
so.
sound like.
No.
Then I could understand that.
Mm-mm.
Because you would have a series of books about a certain haunted house called the House of Shivers.
No, that's not going to happen.
That would make sense, but I don't think so.
That's not going to happen.
Because there was nothing really about the house that was unusual, except there were secret hiding places to put a book. Like secret, just stash places with the, never mind. But anyway, So, safes. Secret, hidden safes that were on another level. I mean, that's, anybody with some extra money and time could do that. So, anyway.
So, first off,
the title of the series has nothing to do with, I don't think, sounds to me, it won't have anything to do with anything unless one of the books.
So, first off, we already talked about that. So, first off, with the story, is you like the fact that, I mean, it's like you read this book and you really didn't criticize it at all. Like, the parents just drop these kids off and they don't even know if the uncle is home.
Well,
you didn't care about that.
That just sounds familiar.
What do you mean?
That happened in the, didn't that happen in the other Slappy World book where they dropped the kids off and at the island where they stayed with their uncle, and they had a lighthouse and all that.
The island?
Yeah, that island. It was the pirate book.
I think they knew that he was there.
Okay.
This was different. It was like they just dropped them off at this like house in the middle of nowhere, and
it seems like that always happens. They go. Well, they rarely. I don't know. It just seems like it's always a very brief visit, but this was no visit at all. They had to go get the plane and they had to leave.
I think it'd be really cool if they did a Goosebumps book where the kids are dropped off in the middle of nowhere at their uncle's house, and they go inside, and they discover that he's making snuff films. And so
I don't think they're going to do a book like that.
And so they have to escape,
you have to explain to children what snuff movies are,
or something. But it would be cool if like. Then they would have to go somewhere else and they'd have to like explore and try to find like somewhere to go in like the middle of nowhere, and they're just stuck and like they have to keep on going to different places or something, and maybe another place is not making snuff films, and it's instead like
No.
a group of monsters,
Yeah.
a group of monsters that are like eating children or something, like like a really cool like adventure instead of like this boring story about like there's a scary book. We never say what's in the book or anything or why it's bad. It's just bad.
Well, he says it's dangerous to the whole world, and thousands of people could be killed or in danger or something, and not even to open it. And of course, when you say that to a kid, eventually that's a problem, because it's always like this in everything. Don't go into the room. Don't go into the basement. Don't go into that room because it's locked up, and they unpry the lock, and don't open the box, and don't do this, and they always do something. They always do the opposite of what they're told, which actually that sounds familiar. So anyway,
yeah, like when you read that book instead of what you were supposed to read.
you told me to do it. Don't listen to that. But I thought I liked the story, except at the end, there's two sets of bad guys. There's one by himself who's pretending to be the children's uncle. And then there's another one who's a children's uncle and his assistant or daughter or something, and they're bad. And nothing is said about what happens to them. I mean, they could have killed them or left them, leave them for dead, or got them killed by these weird animals they find in the forest. And that's another thing. This is what I mean. Marco told me this is like Stay Out of the Basement. Well, it was like it because the man who is talking to them the whole time isn't their uncle for a long part of the book. It's a fake. It's a poser.
Twice,
too. That was the surprise.
It wasn't really a surprise. It was a huge letdown and kind of like oh, really?
But so
I just spent 2.5 hours for that.
And then the problem too, like I said, you don't know what happens to them. And the thing, seems to characterize R.L. Stine's book, is that he gets to a point, I'm like, I've gone beyond my word count. I have to hurry up and finish the book. We can't go into any excess detail. We just have to we just have to go straight to the end. And that's basically what happened. They got out of the forest. They have the second bad guy with them who was beat up. They helped him up, I don't know why, from these man bats who were attacking him. No, the bears, the tree bears, arboreal bears or whatever. And they rescued him. You don't know what happened to him. You don't want to happen to the other guy. And then, so they just disappear. And so what you see at the end, the kids are driving away with their parents, and they get home. And so they unpack their bags. Guess what's in the bag?
Your mom?
The backpack with the bad book. And what do kids do when they're told not to do it? Oh, maybe we should take a look at it. And just so the parents want to know about what happened with the kids. Well, they don't want to go into it now, and so they ask about the parents' trip. And you don't really hear about that, but that's really excess detail you don't need. But still, you zip to the end after that rescue. Bye-bye. The dog was saved. The dog didn't hurt. I thought the other bad guy and his assistant or daughter or whatever she was, I thought they would hurt the dog because the dog was fighting with them, right? So,
well, maybe they did, but they just can't say that they did because R.L. Stine is like, oh no.
Well, I don't know. Well, because he had to zip to the end. And so that is another, I would say, a flaw with his writing in the later books compared to the early books is that he zips to the end. When he gets to a certain point, he says, oh my God, I'm almost up to my word count. I can't go beyond it.
That never really happens in the original books. In the original books, it always feels like they're going on too long and they're being too repetitive, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's over now.
Well, he needs to find a happy medium because between the two, because at least the last books that we've read, well, I guess we've been reading Slappy World books, but they've been zipping to the end. They just, it comes to a point like, oh my God, my word count's almost up. I have to go to the end now. And that basically that's what he did in the book. And I think it was kind of important, since we just spent the entire book running away from things and finding out these two fake uncles. What happens to them? One sentence, two sentences, one per uncle. Could you put that in there? I mean, come on, really? So I would have given it, probably would have given it an A-, but I gave it a B. But I guess I can't do that. I have to give it a food review.
No, you give it a B.
Okay, well, I'll give it a B.
Well, I would give the parts where they're exploring the forest and encountering the different monsters, I would give those parts an A. Like, those parts were the best part of the book.
And they kept going, and there were different ones.
I was under the assumption that that's what the whole book would be, and, like...
That's what I thought.
They would just be, like, all by themselves exploring this forest until they find what they need to find.
Well, I thought it was odd, too, like a clue about that first uncle, that he would just abandon them like that. If he was really related, like... Who he was supposed to be, the father's brother, the mother's brother, but if he was related to one of the parents, which supposedly was, because he was their uncle, he wouldn't just abandon them like that. So I thought that was odd. That was a really good clue.
I would say a really stupid thing was like calling a grown man the bookworm is like a villain name. Like, do you think, like, unironically, a grown man who's like a villain would be called like the bookworm?
Probably not, but that's more like a kid's thing.
That's like a little kid's thing. Like, oh, it's the bookworm. Isn't that clever?
I don't know if a little kid would know what a bookworm is.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. It depends on what do you mean?
I would say this book is like for a 4-year-old.
Well, it should be for like a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Usually those.
Well, that's what the original books felt like. They always felt like they're for like 12-year-olds to 14-year-olds maybe, but the new books always feel like they're for 4-year-olds to like 8-year-olds maybe.
No, I don't think so.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. The reason why I believed in these uncles being their uncles is because I've seen these in real life, these people who do their research, and they're so focused on, and even collectors, they're like weirdos because they don't have any sense of humanity, so they would go on without their nephew and niece, and
yeah, there's a lot of people like that, Safi.
Like over-focused on what they like and what they do.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I thought that was two flaws. Like, you don't know what happens to those people, which I thought they were pretty important. And he could have devoted a sentence to both of them, both sets. And then also that he seemed to rush the end. And then the other thing is almost like it's almost like a characteristic of every Goosebumps,
modern Goosebumps,
and related book, is the kid always has to do what they're told not to do.
Yeah, which is weird because in this instance, you'd think that getting threatened with murder by multiple adults, and you'd think that like this whole scary situation would make you not want to open that book, honestly. And
then I don't think a collector or a scholar, and this, I guess this is just would be a collector, would ever hand that book off to them, even if he thought it was a better hiding place. I just don't believe he would think it's a better hiding place.
Yeah, here, kids, you can take this and you can spill your fucking Go-Gurt all over it, and you can spill your fucking McNugget sauce, your dipping sauces, like your fucking Szechuan sauce from McDonald's or Rick and Morty themed sauces. Okay, you can spill it all over the scariest book ever because, you know, it's Goosebumps.
If it's that dangerous, you wouldn't hand that off to those kids. And are you really that ignorant about kids being like, we used to call both of them the opposite man, because when they were kids, we'd say, don't do this, and they do just the opposite. Or do this, and then they wouldn't do it. It's just like, we said, the opposite man, he does the opposite of what he can. And it's just, I thought that part, too, that was a flaw. I don't believe it. And if it's so valuable, because one of the people, I think it was the first bad guy, said, I'm going to get millions, or, whatever. And so it's valuable monetarily, too.
If you would give that book to anyone, you would give it to Damien from The Omen, if he was alive. Like, you wouldn't give it to two snot-nosed brats from a Goosebumps book. And,
Well, they weren't brats. They were okay, but I just don't, I think that's...
They were boring.
I don't think any collector or any scholar would ever do that in a million years. And sure, they had to find a new hiding place, but I think if they considered themselves smart, they could come up with something else. So, anyway, so that I gave it a B for the flaws.
What else do you have to say about it?
Nothing else.
Why not?
I liked all the different. It's almost like going through a video game and going through different monsters and levels.
Yeah, that was what that was like, and I thought, this also kind of reminds me a bit of that how to get a shrunken head. Is that what that one was called?
No, I didn't.
It reminded me a little bit of that one, where like you have the kids in the jungle and they're like they have a quicksand scene in that book, and they come across things, and then that book is pretty retarded because, Safi, do you remember he has like superpowers if he goes like Kaya!
Oh.
Kaya!
Okay.
I that's what happens in the book, Safi.
Yeah. Stupid.
You think I'm lying?
No. But there's a lot. That's another thing too. I could see too how they might want to look at the book because there's so much lying in the book, lying about everything. So I mean, it was, when somebody lies as much as they do, then if you like that person, which we see in real life all the time, you don't know, you're so confused, you don't know what to believe. And so
oh shit.
I don't know. So anyway, maybe they didn't really believe the uncle, but he said it was the most dangerous, or what'd you say, the scariest
book ever. But how would you compare this to like the Slappy World books? Like, how would you compare it to like all the Slappy World books that you've read? Do you think that this is
a type of book?
You
but
think
it still jumped to the end?
Do you think that it's an improvement on the Slappy World books?
Well, yeah, because there wasn't any Slappy in it, and then no Slappy narrating it.
Well, there's Slappy World books without Slappy.
Well, yeah, we heard one but it didn't have him at the end, but he had him at the beginning. And
Please Don't Feed the Weirdo. A badass book. Excuse me.
Okay, well, like I said, and it's funny too because you say the scariest book ever. I think some of the monsters that they encountered in the woods and in the cave were pretty damn scary. So, like, is the book scarier than them?
Yeah.
Is the book scarier than bears? If you sneeze and you disturb their environment, their habitat, that they're going to attack you, and they have claws and teeth and big mouths, and they're bigger than you. Because you're a kid. Even an adult, they were attacking that bad guy. Do you think the book scarier than those? Is the book scarier than a big fat locust?
Well, another
that's
thing,
as tall as a building?
I know that this is probably above the children's heads, but how did the man bats? Where did those come from? Because
that's what I was wondering. That's why I thought he was making that stuff in a laboratory. Because you know what that reminded me of? The Fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the face on the fly.
I
the
guess.
Fly head. And it talked.
I haven't seen that movie.
Well, you should watch it because you'll be reminded about the fly with the man's head.
How did that happen?
Although it's a little fly.
How did
man's face.
How did those creatures come about? Like, Is there someone who just walked into the Wayward Forest and found a bat and had sex with it?
No, I thought it was something that he did in the laboratory, but no, he didn't.
So where did that come from?
I don't know. They said it'd been like that for thousands of years.
That's really weird.
Had evolved.
I guess cavemen didn't have very high standards in R.L. Stine's universe.
No, I don't know.
Because you can't just introduce these elements without, like, thinking logically about, like, you know, oh, where did that really come from?
No, you're not talking about cave. You're talking about prehistoric Native Americans.
What?
It said thousands of years. Prehistoric Native Americans were here thousands of years ago.
Safi, they were busy, I don't know,
making mounds and doing burials and making pots and
killing each other and stealing each other's land and then complaining that other people came and stole their land. Like,
oh, please,
they were busy. So you're saying like a Native American had sex with a bat?
I don't think anybody had any sex with anything.
Then how could where did the bat come from? Where did the man bat?
Nature abnormality.
No,
I don't know.
You can't just explain that.
I don't know. That's another thing. That is a weird. That's another flaw.
I know.
And major flaw.
Major, because it's like, where did that come from? Like,
I'll still give it a B because
I'm Uncle Wendell. I'm Uncle Wendell, and I like having sex with bats.
I think, Uncle. So I think at the very end they could have had a thing where, oh, you've been playing a video game and you survived and you won or something.
That would have been better than like, oh, we're gonna open up the book.
Yeah, because that doesn't. To me, that's almost like I said, a race to the end and a cop out. Because it's just the typical thing. Oh, a child, a kid, a teenager does just the opposite of what he's told.
And
he or she is told to do.
I don't like it when R.L. Stine does cop-outs. Like, you know, cop-outs I don't like, but I really don't like when R.L. Stine cops out.
Okay, well, so I don't know what else to say. Those are my complaints about it, but I did think going through all those different monsters, and it just kept going.
And you guys,
and then they went through they repeated going through a few.
You guys know a much better thing than this would be Resident Evil 7.
I have no idea.
Well, in that one, it's a similar thing where, like, he goes out to the middle of nowhere at this house, and he has to escape because there's creatures everywhere, and he's got to save his girlfriend. And it's so much better than this, and like that's what this book could have been. It could have been really good, but instead it was just pretty bad. It was pretty mediocre. I mean,
okay.
Typical stuff that Safi would give high marks for.
Okay, so anyway, I have to watch another stupid Saw movie, and Saw 2, and I just saw the initial, like, before the intro starts. It is the intro, but before the title, and then the movie, and it was gross. And then we have to watch 2 episodes, the last final 2, of MasterChef. And then tonight is American Horror Story. So that comes on after MasterChef. So we've got a busy rest of the day. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to become one of our subscribers, come on down and tell us what you think.
Tell us where a man bat came from.
And don't say the things that Marco was saying. Come up with your own idea.
No, just
Unless you agree with them.
It feels like there are characters in R.L. Stine's universe that would probably have sex with bats.
Oh, Marco.
Like the librarian from Girl Who Cried Monster. Like, he was a weird guy. What about him? Like, he was like a toad monster pretending to be a person. And you think about, like, a weird creature person like that would definitely do something weird like that.
Yeah, okay.
What?
All right. Well, so goodbye, everybody.
Bye.